Welcome to Just Minding My Business Media, where you get information that you can use. I'm your host, Ida Crawford. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Just Minding My Business on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Share us with your family, friends, and colleagues. Engage with us by leaving a review or comment. Your support keeps this podcast going and growing. So I am so happy to bring to Just Minding My Business today, Anmol Singh. And one of the things we know, the stock market is an emotional roller coaster. The difference between profit and loss comes down to you understanding how to make logical and fast decisions based on constantly changing data. That is where Mr. Singh comes in. He was born in Delhi, India, and grew up as a patient and persistent individual. After completing his high school education, he went to Brunel University in London with a strong determination to become something great. He started trading in his dorm and saved enough money to move to America after graduation. At the young age of 22, Amal was able to establish himself as a successful trader, entrepreneur, and author. Today, he and his team at Live Traders show people how to execute trades, review different scenarios, and most importantly, how to control your emotions when high stakes are on the line. Welcome. This is going to be definitely an interesting conversation. Wow, at a young age, you was definitely determined to get this done. Okay.
Definitely. I started very early on, when I was in my dorm room at 18
Well,
and doing that ever since.
and that's good. I mean, I have quite a few books. I took some classes, but like you talk about the emotions, I couldn't handle it. It was like, oh my God, and I spent a lot of money trying to learn how to trade, but it just at that particular time, it was not, I didn't have the stomach for it, to say the least. So how do you figure that out if you even have the stomach for it?
Yeah, I think originally when you get started, I think you have to realize that you're not gonna have that stomach, and that's totally okay. I mean, I can't expect to, let's say, jump in the ring with Mike Tyson and be confident, right? Because you're not gonna be confident. So it's one of those things where when you come in, you have to come with an open mind and be very humble to the markets, because the
Mm-hmm.
market's the boss, right? And it could really help you, it could really hurt you. So just come in with like a mindset of, okay, I'm a beginner, I'm gonna take it very slowly, and you have to build that muscle. I think a lot of people make the mistakes of making money too quickly in the markets, and then they think that they can't do no wrong, and then they get overconfident, and then the market shows them who's boss. So I think you have to build that muscle slowly. So not focusing on making 10, 15, 20, 30,000 like right now. Let's start to say, okay, let's make $100 consistently. We got that. Okay, let's go to 200 consistently. And then you keep inching your way up to
Mm-hmm.
get to a point where you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars and it's not going to affect you. But that's a muscle that's got to be built. Just like, you go to the gym, you're not going to go straight and start lifting like 500 pounds. You're going to start with 5, 10, and kind of work your way up. I think the same thing is what I recommend, traders to do.
Yes, and that makes sense. And that's with anything that you pursue. You can't expect results out the door. You
Yeah.
have to be patient and be willing to take your time and grow. So
Mhm.
that's pretty much what this is all about. So, how do you figure out why you want to do something like this? How do
For
you
me, I
figure out being
mean,
a trade?
yeah, I think for me, like I got into it when I was in my college. I was applying to a lot of different internships, a lot of different jobs. Trading wasn't like even a thing in my crosshair, right? Because my family was a business family. None of them invested in the stock market. And it was one of those things that I was taught early on. Oh, it's like gambling. You don't want to get into that. And so I never thought I'm going to get into this business, but I found myself in college applying for jobs and internships and never getting a call back. Nobody's replying to my applications. I was applying for marketing jobs, business jobs, none of that. So I found myself a year in college because in London, you had to have like 1 year's worth of work experience before you can graduate. And that 1 year, I couldn't get in anywhere. And that
Mm,
was the time where I was like, okay, I'm gonna be in my dorm room for like a year with no job, no internship. I have to do something and not waste this year. And that was a year where I started researching, reading a lot of books, taking a lot of courses, hiring mentors. And then I joined a prop firm in New York City that I was trading from while I was in my dorm room. And they started me off just like I was telling people with like a demo account. I proved
mhm.
myself. Then they gave me some money. They're like, okay, here's $50,000, right? Go prove us, make $100 a week. I made that. They're like, all right, here's $75,000. Now you make $500 a week. Prove yourself. And I kept working my way up that firm to a point where I was trading tens of millions of dollars of their capital. And I think that's kind of how my journey started in trading. So it's kind of something I fell into. Never thought I'm going to be into this. I was horrible at math growing up, you know. So last thing I thought I'd be doing something with numbers, but here we are.
Wow. And that's funny how where we end up in places that we haven't even dreamed we were going to be in. It's
Yeah.
interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so how do people decide whether this is right for you? Because in your case, it was one of those things where you just jump it found you, so to speak. Sometimes people are looking for something to do, and how do you determine whether or not it's a fit?
Yeah, I think the biggest determining factor will be curiosity. Meaning, is that something that actually interests you? Is that something you're curious about? Like you want to learn why the markets move the way they move, why they go up and down. Like you're really curious about it. So for me, I was so fascinated by it. Like, why does the stock move? Who decides the prices? Like who decides this? And I just like got really curious and I wanted to learn and I learn and learn. And I think that's one of the reasons people will fail because what they do is they see this shiny object, traders making a lot of money. I want to
Mhm.
do that. Well, if money is the only goal, well, there's other ways to make money, right? There's online businesses you can do, there's Amazon, drop shipping. There's so many different ways to make money. So why do you want to make money in trading? I think that's the question that people need to answer because if you're just doing it for the money, guess what? When it gets tough, you're going to give up. You're going to quit, and it will
Right.
get tough. It will get tough. Trading can get really tough at times. And if that's not your passion, you're going to give up. You're going to move to the next shiny object. So in that tough period, what keeps you going is your passion, is your curiosity for that business, for that craft. And for me, when I lost money on my first, few trades and all of that, it didn't bother me. For me, it was like, okay, why did I lose? What did I do wrong? Like I always wanted to get better. I think that's curiosity is number one thing. But the way you're going to find out is by starting. I think most people read too much, never get started. Start, see what the markets are all about, and you'll figure out pretty quickly if this is for you or not.
Absolutely. And that's pretty much with anything. You've got to jump in and and to me with the trading industry, you have to read and do. Because if you try to read a book and you sitting there looking at all them candlesticks, you are going to like, oh my God, what is this? It's not gonna connect unless you're actually implementing step by step what you see.
Mm.
So the mind shift thing, because like you just talked about, a lot of people get in to make money, which is not what you should be focused on. Yes, we all want to make money, but what should be the main focus and how do people shift their mindset there?
Yeah, so what people need to do is focusing on following the process, following your trading plan, and then let the results follow. If your trading plan is worth any weight in salt, and if you measured, if you back tested it, then you know over time this works. When you
Mm,
know over time something works, then all you got to do is just follow that process rather than trying to fix it, optimize it, get there faster. And that's a saying I always give. I could give a man a strategy to make $10 million in 10 years, but in the hopes of getting there in 1 year, he's going to tweak it, optimize it, fix it, try to risk more, try to get there faster. And in so doing, 10 years later, you're still not there yet. Right. So you need to be able to stick to one thing, follow that rather than doing random things. And I think that's what a lot of people do is they move from one shiny object to another, one strategy to another. Oh, this strategy is not working well. Let me go to this one. And then you start doing that one, and then that one stops working well. So you go to that one. And then the original one starts working again. And you just keep bouncing around year to year rather than just sticking to
mhm.
one thing and getting those results. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons is that people don't develop that mindset, right? They don't develop that mindset. And I think A lot of people started trading in 2020 when the whole Reddit GameStop thing happened and new people came into the stock market, but they came in it for the wrong reasons. They came in it to get
Yes.
rich quick. They came in it for the hype, and that never lasts. I mean, I've been doing this 14 years. I've seen people come and go in this industry all day long, right? They get some quick successes. They think they can keep it going, and then a year later, they're not there yet because they hadn't developed the good habits. So they end up over leveraging themselves, risking too much. And all it takes is a few bad trades to really destroy the last 50 good ones. And I think
Right.
that's where emotional control really comes in.
Yes. Yeah. So it's the emotional control because it can be emotional. Because when you're watching those numbers moving back and forth, it is like, oh my God, am I gonna get what I need to get? And a lot of times people get greedy
Mm.
and that's how they lose. What's your thoughts on sticking to a number and executing in that realm?
I like that style of trading. You know, that's one of the things I tell people is like when you get into the trade, before you get into it, you should already know when you're going to get out if you're right and when you're going to get out if you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that's the number one key. There should be no trade that people should be taking without those exit points well defined. Every single trade, you should know when you're going to get out if you're wrong, right? That way you can take a small loss and walk away. And when you're going to get out if you're right. I think most people never decide those numbers and they trade on hope. Maybe if it gets to their target they had in mind, but then they're like, maybe it'll go higher. Let me keep holding on. They never sell, right? Or
Right.
the stock is going down and they know that they should be getting out of it. They keep holding. Maybe it'll come back up. If you trade on maybes, yeah, maybe you'll be successful. But I don't
Right.
want to trade on maybes. You know, hope
Yes.
is buy and hold is what Warren Buffett talked about, but most people end up doing buy and hope, and hope is
Mm-hmm.
not a strategy. So I think you have to have a well-defined strategy. And I 100% like this for newer traders is to pick an exit point, pick the exit point if you're wrong, and just let the stock do its thing. Don't mess with it. If you've tested your strategy over time, then let it gyrate, let it do its thing rather than getting out too soon, right? Maybe this is your target, you get out early because you're feeling jittery, you want to lock in that profit. Well, now
Right.
you missed out on this trade that you could have gotten.
Yes. Yes. So I read in your bio that you're author. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I wrote a book. It's called Prepping for Success 10 Keys for Making It in Life. So that book is all about psychology, all about mindset, right? Because that's one of the things when I started trading, trading was the biggest personal development journey I've ever embarked on. Like
Mm.
I learned more about myself being a trader than anything else, right? Because trading can bring out the best in you. It could also bring out the worst in you at times, right? Especially when you're risking millions of dollars every day. It could really affect you and you can see those little, problems in your psychology. So for me, I embarked on this path and I quickly realized in 2 years that, okay, I don't have it, right? I don't have it. I keep messing up. I keep breaking my plan. I keep getting out too soon. I keep holding on to losers. So I embarked on this process of like really working on myself, hiring coaches, hiring mentors, attending workshops, attending seminars. And I realized that not everybody else has that amount of time or the money. I probably spend millions of dollars at this point on myself and I know
Right.
other people don't have that. So I kind of took everything I've learned in my journey and I distilled it into 10 keys that I wrote talk about in this book.
Yes. Yes. And I think everything starts with mindset, because when we embark on new things, there's a certain amount of fear of the unknown. Because at that point, you don't know what you don't know. And like you just stated, educating yourself, you know, kind of minimizes that fear because now you're going into the journey with some knowledge and ready to learn more. So I like that. And the name of the book again?
It's called Prepping for Success 10 Keys for Making It in Life.
And how can people get that book?
It's available on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Walmart if you want to read the physical book. But if you're into the audio version, then it's on Audible, iTunes.
Yes. Do you do coaching with people to help them, you know, pretty much get that mindset to be able to do it?
Yeah, so I we have several different programs for traders and investors and coaching. So we have trading psychology programs that we work on their mindset. But as far as one-on-one, currently at this moment, I'm only working with like extreme high performers that are running hedge funds and things of that nature. So not really working with retail folks at this moment.
Okay. And how do people connect with that?
Best way would be to, go to livetraders.com if trading is something you're interested in. And if there's something you want to get in touch with me, then Instagram and Twitter are my most active handles. And my username on both of those channels is Delta90, DELTA NINETY. Don't ask me why. I had it a long time ago, came up with a username because it's an options term. And I just kind of kept it the same. And now I'm like, okay, I can't change it.
Yes, yes. So let's talk a little bit about values. Uh, what are the three questions that you should ask yourself defining your own values?
Yeah, great question. Because a lot of people, what they do is when I ask them, what are your values? They tell me what they think their values should be or what they want their values to be.
Mhm.
But I'm like, but your life doesn't demonstrate that, right? Your values right now are completely different than what you say you want. So what you say you want and what you are living are completely different things. So the way you determine your values is number one, look where you spend your money at, right?
Mhm.
Your where you spend your money will tell you what you really value, right? For me, I still hire coaches, I still hire mentors, right? I
Mhm.
hire mentors in all areas of my life. So now by looking at my spending, you can see what my values are, right? It's self-development. But if I pull up the credit card statement, that will tell me pretty quickly what they really value, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's number one. Number two would be look what you surround your space with, right? I surround myself with books. I surround myself with art. I like my office to be clean, right? Organized. So that tells a lot about what I value. But if I go to somebody else's office and all I see is, let's say, just clutter, I see, let's say, mess, I don't see books or anything like that, right? Maybe I see food lying around. I already know what you value. So I think what you surround yourself with is another thing. What you spend your money on is another thing. And then lastly, what do you spend most of your time on?
Mhm.
Right? I spend my time on researching the markets, either adding value, creating content, right? Contributing on Twitter, sharing my thoughts on the different stock market and psychology. I write books. All right. That's what I value. I spend my time on that. So what are you spending your time on? If you're watching Netflix, if you're on YouTube, let's say all day long, rather than executing on what you're learning on this podcast, maybe you just move on to the next podcast. It already tells me what you value. You value entertainment rather than actually doing the work.
Yes, and that's key. That is very key. And
Hmm.
because we watch how people live their life, you know, basically shows their values, and you hit it right on the nose. You definitely hit it right on the nose for sure. Now, a little bit earlier, we talked about passion. And when is the point when you stop following your passion and focus on building up your skills instead?
I think always focus on skills and what you're good at. Because I could be really passionate about basketball, but even if I started to play every single day now, I'm still not going to be making it in the career, right? I just don't have the height, you know? So even if I play every single day, I'm not going to make it to the NBA. So I could be as passionate as I want, but I'll be broke if I rely on that as a career, right? So you need to be passionate about what you're good at. And I have yet to find somebody who's really good at what they do and they're not passionate, right? So if you get really good at your craft, you will automatically get passionate about it. But the opposite does not work. You could be passionate, but you could not be good at it, and you're not going to make it in the career. So skill always comes first, skill development, right? Get really good at your craft, and then you'll automatically see how you become passionate about that.
Wow. Yes, and that makes sense. Because every coach out there is like, go with your passion, go with your passion. But
Mm.
there comes a point when passion is not going to sustain you. It's not going to be totally enough.
Yeah.
You're going to have to bring some other ingredients into the mix.
Absolutely. Because it sounds really good, right? When you listen to all these billionaires, they go on an interview on TV, they're like, follow your passion. That's the advice they give because it just sounds good, right? Follow your passion. I'm like, what does that even mean? If somebody is struggling right now, you're broke, you're telling him to follow your passion. That's not really a strategy. So I think that's why I never listen to like, the people who are like billionaires or they're way ahead of the game because they're disconnected from what got them there in the first place, right? Passion didn't get them there. What got them there was that skill or the strategy. And that's why,
Yes.
'cause I paid, I went to tons of charity dinners, tons of charity lunches. I paid tens of thousands of dollars to have, lunch or dinner with these billionaires just so I can get an hour of their time. And the advice that I would get is follow your passion. I was like, that's useless to me, right? I'd rather speak to somebody who's just a little bit ahead of me because he's going to tell me what I need to do to get here. When I get there, I'll speak to somebody a little bit ahead of me and he'll get me there. So I don't try to speak to the top of the top players because the advice they're going to get is pretty, there's just sounding good advice, but there's no strategy behind it.
Wow. And that's interesting. That's definitely something to simmer on for sure. Wow. This has been amazing. Talk a little bit about integrity. One last thing, because, becoming a person of integrity, because all of this sounds like being in this industry is all about mindset and understanding who you are and being something that is going to be that's going to really be supportive to you being successful.
Yeah, integrity is like the foundational element. That's one of the success keys I talk about in the book. Out of the 10 success keys, one of the success keys is integrity, which is doing what you said you're going to do and then doing it when you said you're going to do it. I mean, just think about how much our quality of life would be better if we did every single thing we said we're going to do
Yeah,
and we did it when we said we're going to do it. The whole life would change. And oftentimes people would say, but Anmol, I'm a person of integrity. I have integrity. I'm like, really? When is the last time somebody called you and you said, "Hey, I'm just in the middle of something. Let me call you back." You never did. Or
right.
an email that's just sitting in your inbox, you still haven't responded to that person. You said you're going to get back to them. Well, that all shows me a lack of integrity, right? Or maybe you run across an old friend at a shopping mall or the airport. You're like, "Hey, it's so good to see you. We should totally catch up." And then you make no attempts to ever catch up with them. So you
Yes.
just said something you don't mean. Think about where that's coming from. Like we're just saying things we don't even mean. And that is all lack of integrity. And your life gets better when you start honoring your own word and you just follow through on everything you said you're going to do. And not every time you're going to be able to live with integrity, right? I have breaks in integrity in my life. I just noticed that last year where I said, I'm going to start working out from Monday, but it's the 28th of the month. So, I'm just going to start from the first, right? And then the first comes in, but it's November. It's November. So we'll just start from the new year, right? And you just keep moving the ball forward and never get started. And I noticed that I caught myself doing that, and I was like, "How are we going to fix this?" Because otherwise, it's just bucks keep moving forward on my own goals. So, hired a personal trainer. He comes every day now at the same time. That's it, sorted. No more problems. So I
Yeah.
think that is what we have to catch ourselves because we all have that tendency, but catching ourselves in the middle of it and then fixing it.
Yes. Wow. And that's so true. I mean, you hit everything on the nose, Amal, because it is, you've got to have discipline, you've got to be and true to yourself, because at the end of the day, it's what you tell yourself. And if you're telling yourself that you're going to do something and you're not doing it, then you lying to yourself,
Mm.
and that ain't good.
Now, what message does that send to, let's say, your clients, right?
Yes,
What message does that send to the universe? I mean, if you don't believe in your own word, how do you
yes,
expect your clients, how do you expect the universe to believe in you?
absolutely. So again, if people want to work with you and get into the trading industry, how do they do so?
Best place would be go to livetraders.com, and we have an app on the App Store, iOS, Android, or even the website. And you can just make a completely free account. Once you do that, you're going to find some videos and some guides for you waiting for you there. That'll be a great place to start. That'll give people a really good idea of whether they
Mhm.
should even get into this in the first place. And then once you figure that out, then the next step would be to schedule a call and we can discuss the next steps.
Absolutely. So thank you so much. This has been a different topic, but definitely worthwhile because you definitely dropped some great nuggets for people to begin to live their life by if they're not already doing so. So thank you, Amal, for everything. And we'd love to have you back again and get into some different strategies in trading. So let's make that a date.
Definitely. Thanks for having me. It was great chatting with you as well.
Absolutely.